I still think it's shocking because the fact that he bet on his own team to lose, which is one of the things the NBA's investigation found, it is stunning. I mean, it is. He's not a star like Pete Rose, but is Pete Rose in the level to which this dirties the game and soils the NBA's attempts to separate the gambling reality from the sports reality? The fact that their investigation found that he did, in fact, as the initial report suggested and what led to the investigation, bet on himself or leak information to allow bets on himself in a parlay involving his play, and the allegation that he feigned being sick.
All right, well, thank you so much, everybody, for the super chats for you coming on. A quick emergency thing. Keep your eye on that. Keep your eye on the Lakers and see if that's any more implication there on the whole betting scale and what's going to happen with the league because, some of the time, I don't think it's going to turn into an.
Mark Walter didn't become a billionaire by playing games. So when federal investigators came knocking with evidence of a conspiracy that reaches into his own locker room, he made a choice that will echo through NBA history. He released it all: names, dates, betting records, proof that some of his own players were part of something much bigger than anyone imagined. The game-fixing scandal that started with Jontay Porter has now exploded into the Lakers' backyard, and the names being revealed, they're going to shock you.
And the reason I'm mad at Kenny is, man, this ain't got nothing to do with damn gambling addiction. This ain't got nothing to do with addiction. These dudes are stupid. Why are they stupid? Under no circumstances can you fix basketball games. Under no circumstances. I love to gamble. The notion, like, Rozier makes $26 million. Him betting, giving people information or taking a step out of games, how much is he going to benefit?
Individuals such as Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier were taken into custody today. Former, current NBA players and coaches.
It started quietly, as most scandals do. A federal indictment unsealed in Philadelphia in January 2026 charged more than 20 people with fixing college and overseas basketball games, bribing players to underperform so bettors could cash in. Prosecutors called it an extensive international criminal conspiracy that poisoned the spirit of competition. But that was just the beginning. By late January, the feds were expanding their scope. Assistant U.S. Attorney David Berman told a court that investigators were looking at additional games beyond the 7 initially probed. The names emerging were staggering. Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, Cleveland Cavaliers assistant coach Damon Jones, and Portland Trail Blazers head coach Chauncey Billups were all swept up in the investigation. Jontay Porter, the former Toronto Raptor, had already pleaded guilty in 2024 and received a lifetime ban from the NBA. Now prosecutors revealed he was just one piece of a much larger puzzle. This was a massive scheme, federal prosecutor David Metcalf told reporters. It enveloped the world of college basketball and beyond. The scheme worked
poker operation tied to the mafia, ABC News is reporting. At the core of Rozier's arrest is a March 2023 game that saw an uptick of Rozier bets come in on the under. Rozier left the game just 9 minutes in, citing a foot injury. Rozier had previously not been accused of any wrongdoing. Also involved in this, former Cavaliers player and assistant.
Mark, you brought a winning brand of baseball to Los Angeles. What sets this group apart?
Well, I think first we need to thank and congratulate the Milwaukee Brewers. They had the best record in the National League, and they had a little bit of trouble this week, but they were a better team than they played today.
Congratulations to you, Andrew. I remember in spring, we all said this was the best team on paper ever assembled, but we know baseball.
Mark Walter didn't become one of the wealthiest men in sports by ignoring red flags. When federal investigators approached him with questions about suspicious betting patterns involving Lakers players, he didn't stonewall. He didn't protect. He cooperated fully. And then he went further. According to sources close to the ownership group, Walter had been conducting his own internal investigation since purchasing the franchise in October 2025. He'd hired a private security firm, reviewed years of betting data, cross-referenced player performance with suspicious wagering activity. What he found made him sick. When federal prosecutors came asking for evidence, Walter didn't just hand over what they requested. He handed over everything. The evidence package included financial records showing unusual cash payments to several players, cell phone data placing Lakers players in communication with known gamblers tied to organized crime, performance anomalies in multiple games over the past 2 seasons, games where key players sat out with vague injuries that weren't reported to team doctors, betting records showing massive wagers placed on prop bets involving those same players, wagers that cashed when the players underperformed or left games early. The pattern was unmistakable. It was the same scheme that had ensnared Jontay Porter, the same scheme that had led to charges against Terry Rozier. This wasn't about one player, a federal source told reporters. This was about a network, and it reached into locker rooms that fans never suspected. On March 3, 2026, prosecutors announced that 12 defendants were set to take plea deals in the sprawling case, but Walter's evidence implicated others, names that hadn't yet been charged, names that would shock Lakers.
It's betting stuff. And in the article, it said in a game on January 26th against the Clippers, there were an increased betting interest on the under for Jontay Porter's props, which for the night were set at 5. I'm sorry. I just think about, like, we've talked about this before. There's certain players that you should probably avoid betting on. If somebody's prop is at 5.5, like just stay away.
Like Draymond Green.
Just stay away.
Yeah.
But it was 5.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, assists and a half. That was his over under.
Just called a wicked stray. Wicked.
But I fell for the Draymond bait.
Why didn't Klay Thompson pick the Lakers? Why didn't he even consider?
We gotta ask him.
But I don't have to. Because I know the answer.
He wanted to take work and
answer. I'm cool on that circus over there.
Just keep the same energy all the way around. But just like Ellie, like stop. Like in your era they did it, so you're wrong.
Yeah. But he's not saying that it's right or wrong on that side. He's just saying he don't like it.
I don't.
He just saying I don't like it.
He don't like that.
He don't like it.
He went to a championship team. Talk about what he don't like.
Still say I don't like it.
Mark Walter didn't release the names lightly. He knew what it would mean for the franchise, for the fans, for the legacy of a team that had just paid $10 billion to own. But he also knew that integrity matters more than reputation. The evidence pointed to 3 Lakers players. The first name was a veteran role player, a guy who'd been around the league for years, known for his defense, his hustle, his glue guy reputation. According to betting records, he'd underperformed in at least 6 games over the past 2 seasons, games where suspiciously large wagers had been placed on his statistical unders. In each case, he'd left early with cramping or fatigue that team doctors couldn't verify. The second name was a younger player, still on his rookie contract. The evidence showed communication with known gamblers through encrypted messaging apps. He'd received payments totaling nearly $80,000, deposits that didn't show up on his official income reports. In 3 games, he'd played significantly fewer minutes than his season average, always after those encrypted conversations. The third name was the one that broke the internet, a borderline all-star, a fan favorite, a player whose jersey sales had funded half the merchandise revenue last season. The evidence against him was the most detailed. Multiple games, multiple informants, multiple betting accounts traced back to associates who had placed 6-figure wagers on his performance. None of the 3 were LeBron James, none were Luka Doncic, but all 3 were names that Lakers fans knew, loved, and trusted. The organization went into lockdown. Players were told to avoid media. Coaches canceled interviews. The practice facility felt like a crime scene. The names were out, the panic was real, and LeBron James was about to respond. The next chapter reveals the King's reaction.
LeBron James has seen it all in 23 years. He's survived controversies, scandals, and enough media firestorms to fill a library. But this was different. This was about the integrity of the game itself. When the names leaked, LeBron was at home, recovering from a minor ankle freak. His phone exploded with messages. Reporters, teammates, former players. Everyone wanted to know, what did he think? What did he know? When did he know it? LeBron's response came not through a press conference, but through his social media. He posted a single image, a photo of himself with Jontay Porter from years ago, before the scandal. The caption was simple. This game gave us everything. To see anyone betray it for money, I got no words.
Prayers for the innocent, justice for the guilty. Within hours, the post had millions of likes. Fans interpreted it as a condemnation of the accused players, but also as a defense of the game itself. Behind the scenes, sources say LeBron was livid, not at Walter for releasing the evidence. He understood that. Livid at the players who had betrayed their teammates, their fans, and their own livelihoods. He's been in this league longer than anyone, a source close to LeBron told reporters. He's seen guys lose everything over gambling. He's seen careers destroyed. For his own teammates to be involved in something like this, it's a betrayal on every level. LeBron reportedly requested a meeting with Mark Walter, not to argue, to understand, to make sure that the franchise would survive this. Walter assured him it would, but the damage was already done. The fallout was just beginning. The final chapter reveals what happens next and whether the Lakers can survive the biggest scandal in NBA history. The NBA has faced scandals before. Point shaving in the 1950s, the Tim Donaghy referee scandal in 2007, but nothing like this. Jontay Porter was banned for life. Terry Rozier was indicted, his career hanging by a thread. Chauncey Billups, a future Hall of Famer, now faces federal charges, and the Lakers, one of the most iconic franchises in sports, now have 3 players caught in the same net. Mark Walter's decision to release the evidence was unprecedented. No owner had ever voluntarily exposed their own players to federal prosecution. But Walter understood something that others didn't. In the long run, integrity matters more than wins. Safeguarding the integrity of sports is a top priority, the Ontario gaming regulator had said when suspending PointsBet for failing to report suspicious activity. Walter took that principle to heart. The 3 Lakers players were immediately suspended pending investigation. Their careers are almost certainly over. Federal charges are expected within weeks. For the Lakers, the road ahead is brutal. They'll lose 3 rotation players. They'll face scrutiny from every angle. Their championship hopes, already fragile, are now in ruins. But they'll survive, because the game is bigger than any player, bigger than any scandal, bigger than any single moment. As Timothy McCormick, the first person sentenced in the case, learned when he received 2 years in federal prison, this isn't just about sports. It's about what sports mean to this country. It's about the trust we place in the people we cheer for. That trust was broken. Now the healing begins. The game-fixing scandal that started with Jontay Porter has now consumed the Lakers. 3 players caught in a federal investigation, their careers destroyed by the choice to trade integrity for cash. Mark Walter did the unthinkable. He released the evidence himself, not to protect his franchise, but to protect the game, because sometimes the hardest decisions are the only right ones. The names are out, the damage is done, and the NBA will never be the same. Should Mark Walter have released the evidence, or should he have protected his players? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. Subscribe for more stories that go beyond the headlines.